So live music, I'm the music booker here. I definitely love live music. We are a live music venue when we're not having weddings. We have 2 stages here. So if live music is something that you want to do, it's a very fun option. Obviously the DJs are fun too. So I just want to walk you through because it's definitely a little different than the DJs. Before we get into that, I just want to add one note about DJ information is that there are some DJs who bring their own speakers into the ballroom. We just want to let you know that our speakers are actually set so that we hear all the announcements throughout the entire room. And if someone brings in their own speakers, we cannot guarantee that they're going to cover the entire room. So just wanted to give you one last little kind of hop on tip on DJs. So 6 things you need to know about having live music at your wedding. So yeah, like I said, we're big live music lovers here. One main thing that we want you to keep in mind when you're booking a band is that there's a big difference between a bar band and a wedding band. And I will say that I booked a bar band, so I'll give you some advice on how that works. But the biggest difference is that wedding bands know that we need to pause for toasts. We need to pause for certain announcements. We need to pause for the cake cutting, all those types of things. So sometimes if you're just like hiring your favorite band, they don't really understand the whole pace of how a wedding works. So also your wedding band is serving the role of the DJ in terms of an MC. So if the lead singer of the band is not really comfortable doing that, I would recommend that you get someone to be your MC. I conned a very charming friend of mine with a bottle of bourbon to be the MC so that the bands didn't have to do that. So just kind of want to remind you about the role that the DJ plays in that kind of keeping the night rolling type of a thing. Another factor that you might want to keep in mind is that it can be difficult to turn down a live band. So if you're concerned about music being too loud, that type of thing, a DJ might be a better situation for you. So just keep that in mind, and especially which band that you're booking. The ones on our resource library are ones that are specifically wedding bands that we recommend and know the flow and volume that we need to be at. Also, so if you are planning to have a live band on our large stage for your reception, you do have to have a sound engineer from our team. So they're going to be, it's not only just their time, but their expertise in making sure that everything sounds really well for your event. Their cost typically starts at around $800, and it depends on, the final cost depends on how big of a band. So a typical 4-piece that should cover, I had a 9-piece band, so we had to bring in a lot of extra mics and monitors. So the specific needs of the band itself can affect that price. There are a couple bands locally who are wedding bands that bring their own speakers. Just keep in mind that they'll typically charge a little bit more than other bands because they're bringing in their own speakers. And again, you want to make sure that the speakers are going to cover the entire room, particularly for announcements. You can use the stage lights. Our new disco ball, and we have 3 uplights on stage. There are additional uplights, as you've seen throughout the room, that you can add to the stage or to the room. And then the mover lights are an available upgrade that you can get through our sound engineer, which is Monica's Sound System Rentals. But anyway, if you are interested in booking music, we can give you our sound engineer's information for sound engineering and lighting. One special note, since I was the first wedding here, there was no patio and no upstairs, so I had to do a room flip. Room flips are very challenging when you have a band. So just want to keep that in mind. This is if you're doing your ceremony and reception all in the ballroom. So if you have your ceremony upstairs, no problem, or in the patio, but specifically trying to do a room flip with a band can be a little challenging. So you can also add music to your cocktail hour. So this stage that I'm standing on right now, if you are gonna have like string musicians or an acoustic guitar player, you don't necessarily have to have a sound engineer in this room. If you have someone who's like plugs in, but you're not really sure, definitely reach out to our sound engineers to see if you need a sound engineer for this room. But typically people can just perform some acoustic music in here without the additional cost of a sound engineer. But it's a very fun ad to have music in this room as well. So number 4, live music will affect your timeline. The biggest reason is because the band needs to load in and do sound check with our sound engineers, and you are probably not going to want to have that happening during your ceremony. So typically, and again, depending on the size and complexity of the band, that'll happen 2 to 3 hours before guests open, or the doors open to your guests. So if you have doors opening at 4:30, typically between 1:30 and 2:30, they're gonna wanna come in, load in, do sound checks. So that's all taken care of before your guests start to arrive. So number 5, ceremony speakers and microphones. So just like Sean was talking about from Legacy, if you're having upstairs, you're having a loft ceremony, typically the DJ is bringing a speaker and microphones, so your band is not bringing those. So you're gonna wanna take that into consideration. If everybody, including your officiant, is very vocal and projects well, sometimes you don't need to have a microphone. You will need something to play your ceremony music, but if anybody mumbles, it's best to have microphones. So you can get somebody to contract with, or have Monica from Monica Sound System, who's our sound engineer, go ahead and cover you for the loft as well. Hospitality is our next and last tip. So what happens when you have that sound check time and then we have our ceremony and cocktail hour time? The band basically has to just hang out somewhere. So typically in a normal concert setting, that would be a green room. Since you're probably gonna be using the entire venue for your wedding and your cocktail hour and reception, we do have an additional space up in the front of the building, Bloom Beads, that you can rent for an additional $400 if you wanna have a set aside green room for them. You also want to think about hospitality in terms of food. So they're going to do sound check and then basically be waiting around, and they're not going to be able to eat during the reception because they're performing. So sometimes you want to just tell your caterer, hey, can I get some box of dinners or some additional catering to feed them while they're having the ceremony and cocktail hour.